Hi, this is Cody. This video is a collection of fan-submitted alternate country ideas. It was in celebration of reaching the 2,000 subscriber mark. The requirements for this contest were: name an alternate event which would change the country, name the country, name how the country would be different. The scenario could be as complex or as simple as the viewer wanted, yet many were very complex. So complex that I didn't have to come up with filler for most of these countries and am just summing up what the viewers commented. And so, let's begin. United Republic of American Patriots. In the 1930s, the plot to overthrow the US democracy with a fascist regime succeeds, and a far-right and totalitarian regime is installed in the United States. The sleeping American war machine is awakened, and the US military invades both of its neighbors, Mexico and Canada. The American fascists are very homegrown and see other far-right wing movements in Germany and Italy as not true fascist movements. Republic of China. The nationalists win the Chinese Civil War instead of the communists. Mao is executed and Chiang Kai-shek is installed as the new ruler of a war-torn nation. Declaring the Republic of China, the country becomes close allies with the United States due to the war against Japan, and China becomes extremely influential with its neighbors. Cultural changes include the Chinese inventing anime instead of the Japanese, and the Chinese taking the major leap in entertainment, while Japan is a backwater third world country in Asia, never really recovering from World War II. People's Republic of Japan. A communist revolution takes over Japan in the mid-1980s. The country is basically a puppet of the larger communist ally of China. The flag is the symbol of the Communist Party in Japan. The Mexica Empire, or the Aztecs. The Spanish never invade or attack the Aztecs, and the Mexica people are able to build a massive empire across most of modern-day Mexico. The United States still exists and interacts with the Aztec Empire, becoming allies and trade partners. They side together in World War II, and the Mexica Empire grows to have one of the highest standards of living in the world. Eventually, they ditched the sacrifice part of their religion, yet still worship their gods. The United Kingdom of the Celts. This empire is created through the complex shift of power and victory throughout Britannia's history. Today, Welsh, Scottish, and Breton, along with other languages, simply mix to form the language of Celtic. Due to time, I can't go in immense detail of this since it's so in-depth, but I extremely recommend you go check it out in the full scenario in the link in the description box below. Great job, OleeHem. German Austro-Hungarian Empire. After winning World War I, the central powers of Germany and Austria-Hungary unite into one superpower of an empire, controlling a large portion of Europe. Theocracy of Deseret. The Mormons create a theocratic nation solely dedicated to their faith. The nation controls a large chunk of the American West and often competes with the United States for land and control, occasionally going to war with one another. The Egyptian Empire. The Egyptians revolt against the British and create a fascist state. The Egyptians side with Hitler and help the Axis in the war against the Brits. Hitler respects the Egyptians because of the history of the region and his fascination with the ancients. Canada. The Canadians have an American Revolution-style revolt against the British and become fully independent from the British, cutting all government and colonial ties to the UK. Canada collaborates with Mexico during the World War I against the US and invades its neighbor. Canada gains Maine, the Dakotas, Oregon, and Washington in return, and today Canada is much stronger and independent, seeing the United States as a rival. The Vargas regime of Brazil. Since the Vargas regime was a dictatorship anyway, Brazil sides with the Axis powers during World War II. Brazil invades its neighbors, and since the war has consumed everyone, no foreign country can do anything to stop Brazil's expansion. Brazil takes Cuba. The Axis powers fall, yet Brazil makes a deal with the US and Cuba stays in control of the Brazilians. In the 1990s, after economic hardship and foreign pressure, the regime falls. The Holy Catholic Empire, or a United Catholic Europe. The Protestant Reformation is crushed or just never happened, so all of the empire is mostly subject to a stronger Catholic Church. The rivals to the church would be the Orthodox, but since the church has more land and power, a series of wars destroys the Orthodox power. Today, Europe and most of Christendom is united under the Pope. Of course, this also changes the entire history of Europe, and the political aspect of the region. Aboriginal National Federation of Canada. This would most likely not be the name of such a country if it existed, but this would probably be what most other outsiders would call it. The federation would be just that, a federation. The country itself would be run by mostly independent tribes who would make decisions for the overall federation. The common goal of the native tribes would be to keep Europeans from expanding into their territory. The region today trades with the US, Quebec, the Japanese, and the Russians. California Republic. California becomes an independent nation after splitting from Mexico and uses its resources and location to become a massive world power, rivaling even European empires. California becomes very imperialistic, invading South America, Africa, and the Pacific, and establishes colonies all over the world. California becomes good allies with the United States due to their cultural relationship, and California even lets the US use its trade ports. Kingdom of Louisiana. Louisiana rebels against the French, and all of New France becomes part of the new Kingdom of Louisiana. Expanding from the Gulf of Mexico to present-day Washington, the country engulfs most of the Great Plains. This makes the kingdom largely agricultural, and their flag celebrates their agriculture. The US wages war on the kingdom as they did with Mexico, yet somehow Louisiana keeps them back. Today the country is largely European in the south, near the Gulf, while native tribes interact and populate the Great Plains. Swedish Empire. Sweden wins the Great Nordic War. Sweden never loses its monarchy's power, and so it stays a hardline monarch empire. It becomes the new great power in Europe instead of Russia, and uses its geographic position to invade and trade with its neighbors. Sweden today still excels in education and quality of living because somehow those Nordic countries are always so happy. Republic of Alaska. Alaska rebels against Russia and becomes its own separate nation. The region experiences a crisis and ethnic divide between the natives and the ethnic Russians. However, peace is resolved and all Alaskans today live in harmony. United World Kingdom. The UK takes over everywhere and installs the United World Kingdom. For government, the monarch would be the official head of the world, yet would hold no true power. The local regions such as India, America, and Africa would have their own governments to pertain to local issues, only listening to the ruling British in time of economic hardship or reform. Ethnicities would stay the same, and the British would be very light rulers having to control so much land. So they would let local rulers stay in charge in exchange for pledging allegiance to the crown. English would be the official language of the world and the language of government. Russian Republic. Tsar Alexander is never assassinated and succeeds in bringing democracy to Russia. Russia would never fall to communism and the Cold War would never happen. Thus, today, Russia is more democratic and less, well, you know, Putin. Confederation of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia never falls, yet instead becomes a loose confederation. Ethnic tensions are lower, and the Balkan Wars never occur. Nouveau Columbus. The American continents never exist, and so Columbus accidentally lands in northeast Australia. They found a small outpost called Nouveau Columbus, which eventually grows into a city. Knowing Columbus's reputation, the outcome would not be so good for the Aboriginals. Enslaving and genocide would be likely, but since the Aboriginals would have numbers, they frequently attack and war with the city. Eventually, since the resources are so low and the city is so isolated, it withers and dies, and Columbus is forgotten to history. Oh, I'm sorry, that's my Columbus hate showing again. Democratic People's Germanic Union. Communism rises in Germany instead of fascism, and the outcome of World War II ends in a communist German victory. The USSR and Germany wage wars, seeing each other as not true Marxists. Technically, Stalin wasn't, and so Germany wins and takes over most of West Russia. This is basically World War II Germany's control of Europe, but with communism. Germany wins World War II, and the Democratic People's Germanic Union is declared, with its capital in Berlin. Philippines. Marcos dies in the Korean War and never became president. Thus, the Philippines today is a superpower in Asia. United Kingdom of Great Britain, Ireland, and France. The UK wins the 100 Years' War and conquers the French kingdoms. The UK becomes a dominant force in mainland Europe, yet is more prone to invasion because of this. France loses much of its original culture, and British and Celtic culture consumes the French region. This plays a massive part in the future of Europe, colonization, and the World Wars. Republic of Equestria. Americans in Canada established the Republic of Equestria. The country is famed for its knowledge of cavalry and horseback, and today it controls an area from the Great Lakes to Vancouver. Alliance of Siberia. Siberian provinces rebel against the Russians and establish a loose alliance called the Alliance of Siberia. Siberia today is much more diverse and less Russian. Empire of Ethiopia. I'm actually going to do a full video on this scenario eventually. It's such a great concept, so I won't go into much detail, yet basically Ethiopia invests heavily in industry just like Japan, studies European machinery, and adapts it. The Empire of Ethiopia today shapes global policies and is the largest superpower in Africa, basically redefining the West's misconceptions of Africa. Ethiopia has one of the highest standards of living and is one of the world's great civilizations. Vichy France. France allies with Nazi Germany and helps out the Nazis in the war with full cooperation. Greater Papal States. The Pope reunites the Italian peninsula under a theocratic rule, and the Catholic Church today is an empire wholly involved in European affairs, militarily and economically. The Church sees itself as a Roman Empire. Russian Empire. Russian Empire never falls and plays a large part in world affairs today. The US never gains Alaska, so the Russians are heavily involved in North America and the Pacific. There is, though, massive ethnic tensions in the country as traditional groups are heavily oppressed. The Holy Mexican Empire. Mexico becomes a holy empire heavily allied with Germany in World War I. Mexico aims to retake its lost territory and even some of the United States' original territory. The country invades the southwest US and takes Louisiana and Arkansas. The US is too weak to defend and thus is unable to do anything in return. Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The Commonwealth survives and plays a massive role in European affairs. Germany and Russia never invade each other because Poland stops them from attacking its own borders, and even Poland colonizes some parts of North America. Polish culture is more well known in the world today. Celtic Confederation. In response to Roman aggression, the Celts create an empire which spans northern Europe. Allying with Germanic tribes, in yellow, they wage war against Rome. Today the region is heavily Celtic and still celebrates tribal gods. Kingdom of Macedonia. Central powers win in World War I, thus the Ottomans never fall. The new Kingdom of Macedonia, comprising of ancient Macedonia, is created yet soon becomes the puppet state of the Ottomans. Today the country is mostly Islamic and experiences a high amount of economic growth. The United States of Texas. Texas stays its own country and colonizes most of western North America. Eventually, these new territories become their own states, and thus the United States of Texas is born. Texas basically splits the continent in two, the USA and the UST. United States of Mexico. Mexico's official name in our timeline is the United States of Mexico. Although when Mexico wins the Mexican-American War in this timeline, they invade and conquer all of the United States. Today, Mexico is a very diverse nation, yet predominantly Catholic. Union of Anglo-Russo republics. The first communist revolution is in Britain. Eventually, the Soviets take power in Russia. The two nations decide to ally and create the Union of Anglo-Russo republics. This makes Europe very communist or very influenced by Marxist ideals, yet the UARR allies with a new growing nation, the Tibetan-Nepalese Soviet Republic. Tibet in Central Asia ally into the Tibetan-Nepalese Soviet Republic. This nation allies with the UARR and the new Chinese Communists to create the World Soviet Alliance. The alliance which involves the UARR, TNSR, and China versus the newly fascist alliance led by a fascist America, the America we first talked about. So this is a new super Cold War, which is a very interesting scenario. These were all really great countries, so thank you all for commenting. I'm sorry if I had to sum up a lot of countries and didn't go too in-depth with a few, but for time's sake, I had to cut down on some countries' details. I thank our community for creating such interesting and in-depth scenarios for this video and supporting this channel every day. We're going on a 2-week break for the holiday season, and so this is the last video for the year for us. We at Alternate History Hub thank everybody for making 2013 a great year, and we'll see you in 2014. Until then, like us on Facebook, subscribe if you have not done so. This is Cody from the Alternate History Hub.